The NFL record for trades in the first round of an NFL draft is an astonishing, mind blowing 10 just a few years back in 2023. We're not going to get that crazy today, but we are going to shoot for about 5 or 6 trades in this first round. So some of these trades might make sense. Some of these might seem, well, you don't really need to do it. Regardless, we're going to have some fun. We're going to try and switch it up today, and let's see how it plays out. Let me know in the comments. And of course, if you enjoy, it's a new channel. So drop a like, subscribe down below. But without further ado, at number one, it's going to be Cam Ward. You guys have already heard all of the explanations about it. They need a quarterback, and the coach's job potentially is on the line. They need a new guy. Cam Ward seems to be that. The Cleveland Browns at number two. I have been in the Abdul Carter camp all off season. I thought, hey, at the beginning of it, I thought that we were going to have to draft Cam Ward because Abdul was going to go number one. But now we are in the driver's seat to get Abdul at number two. However, I've already drafted Abdul Carter 2 or 3 times for the Cleveland Browns this offseason. So let me switch it up here, and it breaks it down, and it brings our decision down to the Colorado boys, the Deion boys. Shedeur Sanders, quarterback, going to the Cleveland Browns. Can he be the one to change our trajectory? I doubt it. I'm a Browns fan. Look, we're going to ruin Shedeur Sanders' career. So to me, I think the decision is easy. It's Travis Hunter. We're going to have the opportunity to allow Travis to be Travis. We're going to let him play full-time cornerback and receiver. We have enough talented young options on defense at corner that didn't play to their potential last year. I think Emerson's better than what he showed last year. I think Newsome is better than what he showed just a year ago. So Travis, if our cornerbacks are having a good day, he can go on offense for this one game or half of this game and then switch to defense. I just think that we give him the versatility that he wants to be himself at the next level. So Travis Hunter to the Browns, I think makes a lot of sense, or at least that's what I'm hoping for. And number three, the Giants. You are going to draft Shedeur Sanders. Now, you might be saying, Owen, they just drafted Russell Wilson, or they just picked up Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. But here's my rebuttal to that. If Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson on one-year deals are going to detour you from drafting Shedeur Sanders, you didn't want him in the first place. So Shedeur Sanders to the Giants, it's a perfect fit. Big name, big city. Hopefully he can learn from both of those veteran quarterbacks. And a year down the line, the Giants got their quarterback, and so does Malik Neighbors. And number four, the Patriots are up here, and they could use Abdul Carter. Absolutely. But I think one team's going to be so desperate to get an Abdul Carter, the Patriots are going to be forced to move down. So let's get exciting here. The New England Patriots are going to trade the number 4 overall selection to the Carolina Panthers. Let's just go with a third and fourth. Look, the draft capital in these trades might not be exactly what it will look like in real life. We're just going to try and get the deal done because we don't know what these teams are thinking. Carolina's going to move up to number 4 and get their Brian Burns replacement. When you look at any NFL team, the 3 most important positions outside of the coaching staff is the quarterback, the blindside tackle, and an edge rusher, not in any particular order, though quarterback should be number 1. Carolina has a good offensive line. They've invested a lot of money up front, and they have their hopeful franchise quarterback already in Bryce Young. It's time to address the defense. We're going to make a big-time move, a blockbuster trade. Abdul Carter finds his way to Carolina, man. I like that trade for them. If they can trade up and get that deal done, it's a match made in heaven for Carolina, and they get potentially the best player in the class at number 4. Jacksonville, I hate to do this, Jacksonville fans. I feel like no team has had a less variety of selection in these mock drafts, but Mason Graham just makes too much sense. Liam Cohen, he's an offensive mind, yes, but this team needs defensive front players desperately. So Mason Graham is going to come in and he's going to be a force and hopefully collapse these pockets for guys like CJ Stroud and, well, in this case, Cam Ward for the Tennessee Titans. Mason Graham is going to have an impact from day number 1. Now, here's another potential interesting trade down spot for the Las Vegas Raiders at number 6. Shedeur's off the board. Cam Ward is off the board. So if you're not in love with the rest of the players on the board, you could potentially trade down. The problem is, I don't think the Jets, the Patriots, the Saints are going to trade up for an Ashton Jeanty. So I think Pete Carroll doesn't overthink it. It's a Chip Kelly offense. They want to run the football, and they already have their quarterback. Let's get a guy that can handle the ball 25, 30 times a game, and then you pair him with Brock Bowers. Maybe in the second round, you get a Jaden Higgins or a gem down the board as far as the receiver position. this offense, it could get moving. They can get fun and interesting going in to next season. The Raiders already have a good offensive line. So getting Genty is the cherry on top. At number 7, the New York Jets. Where do you want to go? I think the New York Jets with Aaron Glenn, they're not afraid to draft a offensive lineman that doesn't necessarily meet the necessary requirements. But the Jets, there has been some reports that they're kind of leaning towards Armand Membou over a Will Campbell because they need offensive tackle. Will Campbell, I saw a stat the other day that said he has 12th percentile arms and 1 percentile wingspan. There we go. And no offensive lineman with those metrics and measurements has ever been an all-pro. So that might detour some teams saying, hey, history tells us don't go with Will Campbell. And at the end of the day, I think the Jets are going to go with a guy that is just an athletic freak. He could play out multiple positions on the offensive line. And for the Jets, you lost a couple tackles this offseason. Now going forward, you have Olu Fashanu, who I loved last year, and Armand Membou, two freaks for Justin Fields to hopefully be their franchise guy going forward. So Membou and Fashanu on that Jets offensive line, it's scary. Now the Patriots, of course, they traded down from 4 to 8. Where are they going to go? I don't think they care with Mike Vrabel. His mentality is to protect Drake May, make his job as easy as possible. So we are going to go Will Campbell. I don't think the Patriots are going to care about the metrics. Mike Vrabel is going to get the absolute most out of Will Campbell. There we go. But hey, there we go. There's the first 8 picks off the board already. Some good mix of defense, offense, but we got to pick up these trades if we're going to get 5 done here in the first round. The Saints are up at number 9. And honestly, I can see a team trading up for maybe a Tyler Warren, maybe a Teteroa McMillan, maybe a Jalen Walker. But at the end of the day, I think the Saints look at it. We got an offensive coach in Kellen Moore. We have Chris Olave, who, when playing, is very good. But that's the problem. He only plays about half the season every year. And an aging Alvin Kamara. So outside of Kamara, Olave, and every other week Juwan Johnson, this offense doesn't have that number one guy to go to every single week consistently. Now, we don't know, of course, the health future of Ted McMillan, but he doesn't have a long history of it in his collegiate days. So we're going to go with Ted McMillan, give this offense their number one guy, and Chris Olave and Ted McMillan with Juwan Johnson, Alvin Kamara, Derek Carr, an offensive head coach. They could be fun to watch there in New Orleans. We saw last year, if they can have good coaching and healthy players, they can put up 35 points and be the best offense in the league. So let's get them another option to hopefully be consistent with that throughout the entire season. And number 10, the Bears. I think you look at it and you say, Genty's gone. The Membou and Will Campbell are gone. We're in a situation where we can kind of just go best player available. But at the same time, why not? We have such a talented roster already. Why not? Let's get some extra draft capital. Let's be the NFL's version of the Oklahoma City Thunder. We have so many young pieces, but you can also get some extra draft capital. And I do think there's a team down the board that is very desperate to move up and make a big splash for this offense, and that is a team in the AFC. The Indianapolis Colts are going to trade 14 and, I don't know, let's say a 4th and a 5th round pick to move up. And again, the trade value could be a lot better. I'm trying to get the deal done, right? The Colts move up 4 spots, though, because they are that desperate to get this guy on their offense because it is a seamless fit. Tyler Warren, I'm not going to classify him as a tight end because he's just a football player. He did everything for the Nittany Lions last year, and his numbers were out of this world, but he's a great blocker. This offense loves to run the football, and he can do that, right? He can provide in that way. And also, you have a quarterback that has had under 60% completion percentage in high school, college, and his first couple years in the pros. That is not even a backup level worthy of stats. You need Anthony Richardson to get more productive, to get better in the passing department, because we see these splash plays, but we need him to make the simple plays throughout the entirety of the game. You know, coming into the league, as a Gators fan, I said that Anthony Richardson, the best way to sum him up was that he makes the easy plays look difficult and the difficult plays look very easy. You want to find a middle ground with Anthony Richardson, and he could potentially be a top 10 guy if he can maximize his potential. But in order to do that, let's get him a safety blanket here in Tyler Warren, a guy that's going to run block, right? So when he does want to run the football in Richardson, Warren's going to be able to produce that way, but he's also going to be a safety blanket in the passing game. So this offense, Jonathan Taylor, Tyler Warren, Michael Pittman, and Josh Downs with a good offensive line, that is a pretty good group going forward. Now, the Niners at number 11, you've lost a lot of veterans this offseason. And to me, I think to get a steal of a player at number 11, for one, he fits the Niners culture of, well, inconsistent health, but also he's so talented. And this is a division that has Devontae Adams, that has Cooper Kupp, JSN, again, Puka Nacua, and Marvin Harrison Jr. There's so many talented receivers in this division that after losing Charvarius Ward, you can't just not replace that, replace him. So getting Will Johnson, a guy that, yes, he's had injury concerns in his collegiate career, but he's a lockdown number one. He has the potential to be a Pat Surtain kind of a corner. And to get him at 11, I love that value for the Niners. Now at number 12, the Cowboys are looking here, and they're saying, yes, we could go with a Omarion Hampton. We could go with a Matthew Golden, an exciting option here for this offense. But I think the biggest need for this Cowboys team is offensive line at this point in time because Dak's coming off a pretty serious injury, and you are going to have to run the football next year, and you don't really have the running backs, you don't really have the receivers. Let's make Dak's job easy next year and get offensive line. But all the top guys are kind of gone, so to me, I think you trade down, maybe you take your shot, and you pick up a Kelvin Banks or a weapon down the board and get some more draft capital for the future because there's a lot more holes on this team than just getting an Omarion Hampton, for example. So for the Cowboys, I am going to have them making a trade with a team that is desperate because you look at the Miami Dolphins. They need some defensive line. They need some edge rushers after losing Christian Wilkins a year ago. The Bears could use an edge rusher. The Falcons were last in the league last year in total team sacks, or at least bottom two. I believe they're the most desperate out of those teams I just mentioned. So the Atlanta Falcons and the Dallas Cowboys are going to make a deal to move up for number 12. So let's say, hypothetically, this is the package, maybe a first-round pick. Again, the Cowboys moved down a couple spots, but also pick up a fourth-round pick. I can see that happening, if not a third for next year's draft or a second of something along that line. But the Atlanta Falcons are up. They move up. They're going to go out there and get their favorite edge rusher, which to me, I guess, let's just go Jalen Walker. They can use him in a variety of different ways. He's a hometown kid, right? Stays in the city, in the state of Georgia. But for Jalen Walker, he could be a linebacker, right? He can rush the passer. Last year, when you watch him, he doesn't look like the biggest guy. But in a defense that had Malachi Starks, that had Mykel Williams, Jalen Walker was standing out. He looked by far and away the best defensive player on the field at all times. Jalen Walker brings a lot of versatility. More importantly, can help rush the passer in a division that doesn't have necessarily the elite quarterbacks like Baker, Bryce Young, and Derek Carr. So let's put some pressure on them. Maybe they can make some mistakes, and our back end can make some plays and get us the football. So Jalen Walker to the Falcons. They get aggressive and get their guy. Now at number 13, I wanted to do something exciting for the Miami Dolphins, but I think they just have already so much exciting things going on with Tyreek and Jalen Waddle and Devon Achane. Right now, it is about protecting your franchise quarterback, and as boring as it is, yes, I will have them going with Kelvin Banks. He can play on the interior because he's agile enough, athletic enough, but he can also play the left tackle, which is what this team needs. So get a left tackle in Kelvin Banks and keep Tua upright. Hopefully, no more injuries in his future. Now, for the Bears here, at 14, look, you traded down, you got some extra draft capital. Now I think you just go out there and get an edge rusher. You have Montez Sweat, where over the last couple of years, he's been dominant when he's been in a Bears uniform. But let's make his job easier. It goes back to, I guess, what I could have said about the Browns, where when Myles Garrett had an older Jadeveon Clowney on the other side of him, he won Defensive Player of the Year because he wasn't double and triple teamed every single play. So when you have a talent like Montez Sweat on one side, let's get another guy on the other side that it can make both of their jobs easier. So Mike Green goes to the Bears, and all of a sudden, you got a young interior defensive line, and then you also got Montez Sweat and Mike Green on the outside. It's going to be a nightmare for those NFC North quarterbacks. Now for Dallas, you're up here. You traded down, but hey, we can still get an exciting option for this offense. You lost out on a one Longhorn in Kelvin Banks, but we can still get Matthew Golden. Put him on the other side of CeeDee Lamb. He can fill the void and be better than Brandon Cooks from day number one. So you have an offense next year where, sure, you still need to address this offensive line. But for Dallas, you have CeeDee Lamb, Matthew Golden, Javonte Williams, Dak Prescott. I mean, it's a solid group. It's not anything that's going to blow you out the water, but hey, one block at a time. So Matthew Golden comes in, and he's a pretty fast player for this offense, right? He's going to stretch the field for sure in this new offense and regime there in Dallas. Now, at 16, the Arizona Cardinals, not the Carolina Panthers, the Arizona Cardinals, they just need to go best player available. And to me, the highest player on my board might be a shock because of where everybody else talks about him and ranks him. Walter Nolan is my favorite player in this class, and he goes 16 to the Arizona Cardinals. It's not too much of a reach, but to me, he can go in and just be a disruptor up front in a division that has teams that love to run the football, like the Niners, like the Seattle Seahawks. They love to run the football, the Rams as well. Walter Nolan can come in with the additions of Josh Sweat on the edge and Akeem Davis-Gather there on in the linebacker group. This front seven is getting better overnight there in Arizona. And hey, I like their potential defensively going into 2025. So Walter Nolan to me is my favorite player in the class. I think he's a superstar, and he goes in the middle of the first round. 17 is the Cincinnati Bengals. And I think, hey, you need edge rusher. So we're in a situation, if you are the Cincinnati Bengals, where you can go with Kenneth Grant. And I love that pick for them, especially if they can figure out the Trey Hendrickson situation. But at this point in time, look, I do think Hendrickson will be back. But hey, Sam Hubbard retired. And honestly, why not? Let's get another edge rusher with the same argument that I had for Chicago and for the Browns. Let's make the edge rusher's job easier. So Mykel Williams comes in. Him and Trey Hendrickson are going to cause a lot of issues for the AFC North quarterbacks, most notably Lamar Jackson, because who knows who's going to be in Pittsburgh and the Browns, their quarterback situations going forward. Now, Seattle is up here, and I know it's boring, but hey, we do need to protect our newly paid quarterback in Sam Darnold. You could go Tyler Booker, but to me, I have one guy rated higher than Tyler Booker on my rankings. So, hey, if you want to go Tyler Booker, absolutely, I understand the pick here. But I'm going to go Donovan Jackson, a guy that can play tackle and guard extremely well. This is a guy that last year at Ohio State started at guard, okay? But then Josh Simmons went down with a torn ACL early in the season. They asked Donovan Jackson, who's never played it before, to slide out to blindside tackle. He did that, and he only allowed 2 sacks the entire season. And, of course, only 1 pressure in the entire college football playoff run. So he is a stone wall. He's a brick wall. He can move. He's powerful. He's a complete package, and Seattle's happy with him at number 18. At number 19, the Tampa Bay Bucks are up, and they can go a lot of different ways. Honestly, I'm intrigued to go with a Jahdae Barron early here for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because, well, Zay McCollum's just not a good cornerback too. But at the end of the day, I think you need front seven help for this Tampa Bay team. And Jihad Campbell is just too perfect of a fit. We're going to go him here. He's going to be able to, spell a Levante David, who's getting up there in age, respectfully. But he's also going to be your linebacker of the future. He can rush the passer. He's great in coverage. He's athletic enough to do pretty much everything. And Tampa Bay's happy with him. And the Todd Bowles defense here at 19. 20, the Broncos are up. They like to run the football. And I continue to say this argument, but this is what I'm going to continue to go back to. When Sean Payton was in New Orleans, what did he always have? Well, he always had Drew Brees, right? Outside of that, he always had 2 great running backs, one power back and one do-it-all back, kind of like a thunder and lightning situation. So early in his tenure with New Orleans, he had Pierre Thomas. He was kind of your power back. And then Reggie Bush, he's your lightning. And then he moved on to Mark Ingram, who is your thunder, and Alvin Kamara, which is your lightning. Now he is in Denver. He has Audric Estime, who I loved coming out of Notre Dame last year. He's your thunder. You need your lightning. And you're going to go out there and get Omarion Hampton in an offense now that has Omarion Hampton, Audric Estime. Of course, you have Courtland Sutton, some young, intriguing wide receivers like Vale and, of course, Troy Franklin. This offense with Bo Nix, if they can add an option down the board, maybe like a Jaden Higgins, like I've mentioned before, I like the future for Denver's offense going forward. At number 21, Pittsburgh is up here, but they're looking at the board and saying there's a player like Jahdae Barron still on the board, and a lot of teams behind us could use him. So Pittsburgh's going to be smart here. They're going to work the board because they're looking at the Chargers. Where's Asante Samuel Jr.? He's a free agent. The Chargers don't have a cornerback one. The Packers, what's going on with Jaire Alexander? They need a quarterback one. Minnesota can use another cornerback on the other side of a Byron Murphy Jr. So there's a lot of teams that need cornerbacks behind them. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to have Pittsburgh trade down, and they're going to still get their guy here in a couple picks, but they're going to trade down with another esteemed organization, a legendary organization in the Green Bay Packers. The Steelers are going to trade down 2 spots. Let's say the Packers give them a 4th-round pick, and the Packers are now up. They're going to jump the LA Chargers, who desperately need a corner, and they're going to get Jahdae Barron, a guy that has balled out, whether he's in the slot or on the boundary. He's been first-team All-Big 12 and first-team All-SEC the last 2 years. The Packers get a nice addition to there, whether Jaire Alexander comes back or not. Now, the Chargers are up here. They're bummed. They're sitting here saying, we're missing out on so many valuable pieces. The only thing that's going to make us feel better is to bring in a Wolverine. So it comes down to Colston Loveland or Kenneth Grant. To me, I think Kenneth Grant has the potential to be a top 10 player in this class, and to get him at 22 is a steal for the Chargers. So they, of course, get Kenneth Grant. Huge addition there on the interior, late down the board. Again, Genty is now in this division. Omarion Hampton is now in this division. You want to put pressure on Pat Mahomes, Kenneth Grant can help in every single one of those tough divisional games. The Pittsburgh Steelers are up, and they are going to get their quarterback. Is it going to be Aaron Rodgers? Is it not? I don't know. But what I can tell you is this. Rodgers is only going to play 1 more year. So if he goes to Pittsburgh, you already have your replacement. And Mason Rudolph is not the answer, ladies and gentlemen. So Aaron Rodgers, he's going to be able to teach Jackson Dart for a year. And then, hey, next year, Jackson Dart's going to be able to take over and hopefully be the next great Pittsburgh Steeler quarterback. At 24, the Vikings need a DB. And with Jahdae Barron off the board, I think it makes it pretty easy. Malachi Starks out of Georgia finds his way to Minnesota. Of course, Byron Murphy was re-signed this offseason. And hey, Harrison Smith might be heading into his farewell tour or farewell season. So he's getting up there in age. We need to replace him. Getting a Malachi Starks gives us at least 1 year with a Super Bowl ready defense to get versatile, to get fun, to get confusing for the offenses. Malachi Starks is a ball hog, and I like him here to Minnesota at 24. At 25, the Texans, it was a shoo-in for me all offseason that Emeka Egbuka, best friends with your quarterback, he needs to go to Houston. But for Houston, you're looking at it and you're saying, well, we took our okay offensive line, which wasn't great, and we made it terrible. We made it even worse. So for Houston, I think you need to address offensive line. Josh Simmons is a great selection here, a guy that only allowed 1 pressure and 0 sacks in 5 weeks of play this past season for the Buckeyes. You could go there. You could go Tyler Booker. So whatever direction you want to go there, I'm going to go with tackle because Tyler Booker, he's strictly an interior guy. At least Josh Simmons gives you the flexibility to kind of play both. I like Simmons to be the blindside guy for C.J. Stroud going forward. And hey, you got 2 Buckeyes there in this offense for Houston. For the Rams at 26, you got a great offense. You got a great defense. You're kind of just looking for some finishing touches. And to me, let's add another piece to this offense, man. Best player available, Colston Loveland, is an absolute steal. Maybe the best value in this first round to the LA Chargers, or LA Rams, excuse me there, right? The LA Chargers could use Colston Loveland, but the Rams get him here in LA. So now you got an offense with Kyron Williams at running back. You got Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua, Colston Loveland, Tyler Higbee, Matthew Stafford. This offense is scary there for the Rams. And Sean McVay maybe has the most weapons he's ever had to deal and work with going into this year, which could be a Super Bowl level year in LA. For the Baltimore Ravens, they need edge rusher pretty bad, pretty much as they need offensive linemen. But at this point, I want to switch it up because I've given them offensive line in pretty much every single mock draft. Let's give them Shamar Stewart. They're going to bank on the athletic profile. They're going to look past the fact that his statistics didn't, I guess, look the greatest. And again, when you look at the tape of a Shamar Stewart, his role at Texas A&M wasn't necessarily to rush the passer. Now, there is effort concerns and again, the ability to finish plays, but his role was really just to set the edge. That was really his only role there for the Aggies, and I think he did a pretty good job of it there in that defense. Now, in Baltimore, he's going to have the opportunity to rush the passer more, and I'm excited to see how that plays out. Now, for the Detroit Lions, where are we going to go? We need edge rusher. About 2 months ago, I think everybody and their mom had Jack Sawyer in this spot. But I think the Lions, with Dan Campbell, they're looking for an athletic freak on the other side of Aiden Hutchinson. You keep hearing me say this argument. Make these star defensive edges jobs easier because when they have one-on-one matchups, they can be dominant. Hutchinson was on a Defensive Player of the Year, pace last year, and he was getting double-teamed most of the time. So let's get him single coverage. And James Pierce on the other edge, being the athletic freak that he is going to help both of their jobs going into next season. Washington at number 29. We're going to go Donovan Onwuzurike. They need another edge on that defensive line, and you can pair that with Johnny Newton there on the interior. Of course, for Washington, you still have Daron Payne on that defensive line. I'm forgetting their other edge right now. It is slipping my mind, and it's driving me crazy. But Donovan Onwuzurike goes there. It's a much-needed addition to that front seven and that defensive line. And, hey, Dan Quinn gets another piece to play with. Buffalo at 30. Look, we can go wide receiver here. I think that's intriguing. We can go offensive line just to get depth. We can go defensive line like a Derek Harmon, which is a great selection here next to Ed Oliver. But I'm going to go just best player available, which could be Nick Emmanwori, a guy that for the Gamecocks last year, he was their Derwin James. You can play him on the back end in coverage. You can move him into the box for front seven help. I just don't believe in Damar Hamlin. So getting Emmanwori can be your next Jordan Poyer, right? He could be your next Micah Hyde for this defense and just help when it comes to those big-time games. And he can be a problem for offenses led by Mahomes, led by C.J. Stroud and Joe Burrow. Emmanwori is going to be a big addition and a freak for this Buffalo defense. At 31, it's going to be boring, but the Chiefs, you need offensive line. The big-time games that you've lost, it's because you don't have offensive tackle help, right? I feel like they haven't had a great offensive line since Mahomes has taken over. They've had good pieces like Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith and again, the guy they just traded away, Joe Thuney, but they haven't had great tackles since Mahomes has taken over. So let's address that, right? And we're going to go out there and we're going to draft Gray Zabel, but I will say this. If you just want to say, okay, we got rid of Joe Thuney, we picked up some offensive linemen in free agency, we still have Kingsley Suamatia. I know I said his name wrong, but stick with me. Maybe you do go Tyler Booker here. This is your Joe Thuney replacement, and you know what? We're just going to do that. If you want to go Gray Zabel because he can play every position on the offensive line, which he displayed at North Dakota State, you can do that. You can go Josh Connerly, who's a very agile. You can go that direction. Point blank period, they need offensive linemen, and they go with one here. At 32, this could be a trade down spot for the Philadelphia Eagles. But I think at the end of the day, look, we lost Josh Sweat this offseason. We lost Milton Williams this offseason. Let's go get Derek Harmon, a guy that is a disruptor up front. And that is going to be our first round mock draft. We had 4 trades. I was trying to get to 5, but hey, I mean, here we are, right? Here's the trade recap on your screen. And hey, this is why I love draft the mock draft database. There we go, right? Stumbling over my words here at the end of the video. But yeah, New England and Carolina, of course, Chicago and the Colts, 2 Super Bowl matchups there, as well as Pittsburgh and Green Bay in years past. Dallas and the Atlanta Falcons made a deal as well. So a lot of, non-conference trades going on in today's video. But I'll scroll through the first round, of course, before we get out of here. Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, Shedeur highlight the list as they do most mock drafts. But scrolling through it very quickly, pause it on your team. But that is going to do it here. So if you enjoyed, drop a like, subscribe to the channel. And hey, we got a lot more coming your way.